Hi, my name is Leslie Romero. Today I'm talking about my copyright assignment and how it follows the ASSURE model. A stands for Analyze Learners. I currently work in a Texas town with 8th graders at a middle school, so this is the group I'm pretending to work with in this scenario with Miss Stewart's class. Students are in the 8th grade and come from middle to lower class families. They live in a rural Texas town near a large city, Austin, and are culturally diverse. They are familiar with using digital resources and materials and can comfortably find and navigate internet resources. Students do not typically have special accommodations or needs when learning. I'm talking specifically about the 8th graders that I'm pretending to work with. I know learners often have special needs and accommodations that are required, but generally I'm working with average learners in this scenario, but a few students are allowed to leave and work with a specialist when completing certain assignments that overwhelm them or require additional guidance. I would make sure students are comfortable in their learning environment and would follow any accommodations students need to successfully participate in and understand the lesson. The first S stands for State Standards and Objectives. The purpose of this lesson is to teach students in an 8th grade class copyright rules. They will receive an assignment from their teacher, but I will only focus on explaining copyright rules and making sure they leave the lesson with confidence in their ability to follow copyright laws and guidelines. I will pre-test students, deliver a PowerPoint presentation, and answer questions. I will assign an exit ticket consisting of a Quizlet assessment with questions about copyright and potential scenarios students may find themselves in to gauge their knowledge after the copyright lesson. The second S stands for Select Strategies and Resources. I will develop a lesson that uses technology and assessments in order to ensure students leave the class with knowledge about copyright laws and the ability to follow those laws going forward. I will begin with a brief introduction and pretest. This would be a simple handout that asks students to explain their current understanding of copyright, if they've ever heard this term before, and what they think copyright means. I will then use a PowerPoint presentation to detail copyright guidelines, facilitate a brief discussion, including questions and answers after the presentation, and end with a short online quiz using Quizlet to assess students' new understanding of the information. I would develop a rubric to ensure that students are properly processing and understanding copyright rules. U stands for Utilize Resources. I would implement a variety of materials and use technology when teaching copyright. I would begin with a short pretest on paper. I would use a large screen to deliver a PowerPoint presentation, specifically a large ClearTouch interactive smartboard that we have in our library right now. I would have students use their school-issued computers to complete a Quizlet assignment to assess their understanding of the content. I would use a rubric to determine a grade for each student. I would post this grade online to their school Skyward account, and I would also leave an avenue for communication open by allowing students to reach out through school email or in person to answer questions they may have about copyright as they complete future assignments. R stands for Require Learner Participation. I would encourage and require learner participation in a few ways for my copyright lesson. I would pre-test the students to see what they already know about copyright. They would all write on and turn in this short assignment. I would engage students in a short question and answer discussion after the PowerPoint presentation. I would also ask students to engage in the lesson after this discussion by grabbing their own devices and participating in an online Quizlet assessment to determine if they have a good understanding of copyright now that they have been exposed to this new information. I would issue a rubric detailing my grading process that students will access online using their own devices. And finally, E, it stands for evaluate and revise. I would assess students' understanding of copyright laws following the lesson by asking them to participate in an online quiz using Quizlet. I would use a rubric to determine a grade for each student. The rubric would include categories including participation in the pretest, attentiveness during the presentation, mindfulness during the discussion, and the number of correct answers on the Quizlet assessment. I included mindfulness when talking about the discussion because I understand many students have anxiety when speaking out in class or might feel pressured to participate when they don't really have anything to offer or a question to ask. So I would include things like being respectful toward your fellow students, not sleeping, not talking during this discussion portion of the lesson. I would issue grades for each student and remain available for discussions and questions after the lesson. I would use the results for each class to determine whether I need to adjust my pretest, PowerPoint presentation, discussion questions, or Quizlet questions based on the understanding demonstrated by students. If they show confusion in certain areas, I would clarify in my instruction going forward. If they already demonstrate a clear understanding of a specific topic related to copyright, I will spend less time focusing on that area of copyright law in future lessons. And finally, I have my source listed here. When I was learning about the Assure model, I referenced the Instructional Technology and Media for Learning textbook. Thank you.